Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw. It's Monday. On Mondays we do tier lists, and on Wednesdays we wear pink.
But why male models?
You serious? I just told you that a moment ago.
And of course, we have a lot of big changes coming to Pokemon Unite very soon, and some big changes that just happened. CLEFABLE was added. Scizor and Scyther kind of officially got added to the game. Let's be reasonable. They were nothing before, and now they are actually Pokemon to deal with here. We are going to go through our entire tier list, rank every single Pokemon, and I'm going to give you insight as to why I put them where I put them, and how you can possibly play them best inside of a map. And as always, just remember that even if I rank one of your favorite Pokemon low, or someone that you're very, very good with, it doesn't mean that you can't find a lot of potential with this Pokemon. It just means that I think in this current meta, it's not super strong. So let's take a look here. Our newest added Pokemon's a support, so we'll do supports last. Let's talk through our tiers here. We've got all letters today, except for one. We've got our God tier, where only one Pokemon will live. We're not frickin' Norse around here. We've got our S tier, A+, our A tier, our B+ tier. Do my eyes deceive me? We don't have a B tier. Oh, no, we do. It was below. Still got the B tier. I don't even know what to make of that. The coloring's all weird. Hold on. That makes more sense. Still got the B tier. We have our C tier, and we have our Decidueye Memorial tier, or our D tier. This is a tier for Decidueye, who used to be really horrible, but now is not so horrible in this game anymore. All right, let's get started. You know, it might be fun to start with the all-rounders so we can talk a little bit about Scizor and Scyther, even though Scyther's a bit more of a speedster, if you ask me. So let's take a look at our all-rounders here. We'll start with a really strong one, Aegislash. I think Aegislash is in a great position in the game right now. It works really well with its Sacred Sword, Wide Guard setup. I think Iron Head is getting better and better. Shadow Claw still, I feel like, while I like this moveset, it's not maybe the most ideal. It just doesn't do enough for you yet, but I think it's very close. Aegislash is just great. Its boosted attacks do insane amounts of damage. It can secure, it can KO enemies, it can KO wild Pokemon. You can use it to invade. It's in a really, really strong spot in the game right now. So I think A+ is a pretty great place to put Aegislash. I often see it played in Path, but it really has the potential to roam around a lot, and you could put it in the jungle if you needed to. Our next all-rounder, Buzzwole. Buzzwole, I think, is a solid A. This might even be a little low. Buzzwole's really good right now, honestly. So its leech life is still, it leaves a bit to be desired, not because of the amount of healing or grabbing an enemy, it's just because it can be broken so easily. I think Superpower is still the build on this. However, I like playing Superpower Smackdown a lot. I think it's really fun, really strong in lane as well, so you don't need to throw this Pokemon in the center area. You can, which means you'll come to, you know, Path at level 5, which is pretty brutal, but it's not too tough to play this in lane, and you can stack with it. So I'd say play it in lane. It's a really solid all-rounder right now. Charizard. I think Charizard is an A+ all-rounder. Now, this Pokemon has to kind of be played in the center area if you want your early level 9, but it actually works pretty well in Path. It didn't used to on the old map. On the old map, I think Char struggled a little bit, and on this new map, it actually can play in lane a little bit better. So Char's really good. Its Unite's amazing. It's something you always have to watch out for in every single team fight. The only problem with Char is it can get its Unite move canceled. So as long as you're good at not getting its Unite move canceled, you'll do pretty well with Charizard. Garchomp is next on our list. Well, I think Garchomp's a C tier Pokemon. I don't think it's a D tier Pokemon. I actually think you can do some decent work with it, especially solo, but just you have to sort of rank these towards each other, and I can't think of a Pokemon, at least an all-rounder, that might be in a similar space. I can't think of another Pokemon I wouldn't rather have, and that's the unfortunate thing that happens on this list. It also kind of doesn't benefit from the fact that it has sort of the good version of it. Let me pull that up. Tyranitar. I'm just going to put Tyranitar in A right now. The issue with T-Tar is it takes so much experience to get online, but once it finally gets online, it's an absolute monster. And because of that, I think it outclasses Garchomp in basically every respect, even though they don't have the exact same functionality, you know, with moves and everything, but they just happen to sort of fill the same role of experience-hungry monsters, and one of them's way better, and that's Tyranitar. I think Tyranitar is pretty good in this game right now. I think an A is a very solid place to put this Pokemon. Anything, you know, really, here's the cool thing about what's going on in Unite right now. I don't think there are too many Pokemon that I would really stay away from, but I'd probably stay away from Garchomp for your own sanity. I don't think you're going to love your results. Our next all-rounder, Lucario. I think Lucario is also an A. This is a Pokemon that I feel like is not... Here's the thing. Part of me goes, oh, Lucario's B+, right? But I actually think Lucario's A. It's just that we're so used to Lucario being broken that we feel like a pretty dang good Lucario feels underwhelming. At least that's how I feel when I'm thinking about Lucario. I think, man, this Pokemon is kind of underwhelming, but that's not true. It's just that it's not the Lucario of yore. It's not our old Lucario, the Lucario of legend, the one they told stories about, the one you'd gather around a campfire and you'd all be scared. That Lucario, that doesn't really exist in this game right now, but Lucario is still really good. Machamp. Machamp's another super solid Pokemon. I think it's either A or B+. You know what? I'm just going to put it B+, and I'm happy to be wrong here. Here's what it is with Machamp. I just am not concerned with this Pokemon the way I was on the old map. And I think this is total personal preference. We're talking about shades of gray here, or shades of blue and green. You could say it's A. That's fine. I'm not going to argue with you too hard. But I'm just not that worried when I see a Machamp on the enemy team, and I'm not crazy about it on my team. I think it's still super solid. B+, an above average solid pick, I think is a fair place to put Machamp for now. Machamp and Lucario both can be played in Path, which is a great advantage compared to a Pokemon like Tyranitar, where you can play it in Path, but it's going to be behind for a very, very, very long time. Let's see. Our next all-rounder, Azu. Azu's A. Azu might be A+. So this Pokemon got wild buffs. I mean, the leveling buffs on Azumarill are crazy. It gets everything it needs at level 12 now. It gets its Unite move early. It evolves at level 4. This is a really spectacular Pokemon. I think A is a super solid place for it. The Pokemon I see in A+ are ones that I feel like are... there's just something that edges them out. There's just that it factor to those Pokemon that makes them a little better than A. I don't think any of the Pokemon we've talked about so far are just broken beyond belief, but Azu, really, really solid. Maybe even A+. Maybe it's even A+. A really good Pokemon. Dragonite is one of the hardest Pokemon for me to rank. I don't know where to put Dragonite because I have not played much Dragonite or seen much Dragonite, and with the Rayquaza changes, I think it might be okay, but I've not been impressed with the Dragonites I have seen on the new map. I need to take more time with it. In fact, I'll have to hop off after this and play some more Dragonite, so don't crucify me over my Dragonite placement. I still think it's strong. I still think Hyper Beam is good. I just feel like the fight around Rayquaza happens differently, and I don't know if I'd want Dragonite there for it. You can't attack Rayquaza from outside the pit on the top with Dragonite the way you'd like to. You're not able to secure it as easily with Hyper Beam because of that. So I think it's good, but probably not the best. Zarina, on the other hand, A+, maybe even S tier. Zarina's insane. It's so good. It's so good. They didn't hurt it too much at all. Zarina is just crushing it in this game right now. Stomp is, I think, the strongest moveset. You play this in Path. It has one of the earliest amazing power spikes in Unite. So when you think about Pokemon that spike and then are just insane, for instance, when Delphox gets its level 11, that's an insane moment for that Pokemon. Tyranitar is probably its level 9. That's a huge moment for that Pokemon. For Zarina, it's level 6. And once it's level 6 and it's Zarina, man, oh man, like watch out, because that Pokemon is just so incredibly good. I'm gonna change up the music a little bit. I feel like we're a little too intense for a tier list. Sorry, music. Let's see here. We've got, who's next? Our next all-rounder is going to be Scizor Scyther, right? Am I missing anybody? No, I have to be missing someone. There's like 50 all-rounders inside this game. I guess it's Scizor Scyther. Let's put them on the board here. We can talk about them and then talk about their placement. I'm sure I'm missing someone. I feel bad about it. Sorry, whoever I'm missing. So, Scizor and Scyther. Scizor on release, I was wrong about. I said it was C tier. It's D tier. Scyther on release, I was wrong about. I said it was maybe B+, I think it was B. Now, however, we're actually talking about two good Pokemon. Before, I think you could see these two like this, for sure. Now, I'm pretty confident in saying both of them are at least B+. At least B+. This might be undervaluing them, honestly. It might be a little bit. I think both are really solid for different reasons. Scyther, pretty decent speedster, and Scizor, definitely now finally an all-rounder. I think it's the flavor of the week, so I think people are a little more stoked on it than they would be otherwise, but a really solid Pokemon. It's finally good, and I might be undervaluing it a little right here by putting it B+. I actually think they both kind of fall in this category to me for different reasons. They can totally pop off. And if you really pop off with them, I'm sure you're thinking, no way, this should be an A Pokemon. But I think B+ is a fair place to put them until the dust settles and we really see kind of how they shake out right now. But both of them, they actually have weapons now, which is cool. They actually are decent and have weapons. Let's go on to our next role. Since Scyther is a bit of a speedster, let's head on over to speedsters, which has lately become my favorite role in Pokemon Unite. Absol, I think, is a solid A, maybe even A+ Pokemon. Absol's really good. The only thing I think that holds it back a little bit is it's just so incredibly squishy, but it's insanely mobile. It can be played in path. You really don't need to play it in the central area. However you can and get a nice experience lead. It deletes Pokemon. The meta is so bursty right now, and Absol is just a real nice bursty friend inside this meta. I think A is a solid place to put it. Maybe even A+, but I think A is a really solid place for Absol right now. Let's see. Our next speedster here is Gengar. So I'm going to put Gengar up in the S tier. Now, if we're talking about only competitive play, you wouldn't have Gengar in your S tier. But I'm talking about anything else besides full competitive play. I think Gengar is just a team destroyer. It can destroy individual Pokemon. It can chain entire KOs against everyone. It's honestly, I think, a little unfair, and when something is a little unfair, I put it up into my S tier. I don't play Gengar that much because I honestly think it's mean, and I think if I spent too much time playing Gengar and got insanely cracked on the sticks when it came to Gengar, I just feel like an absolute jerk, because it's mean. Gengar is too mean. Let's see. The next Pokemon on our list, Talonflame. Here's the deal. Can we talk about Talon for a minute? Let's talk about Talon and let's talk about Dodrio at the same time, and let's get a few things out of the way. Talonflame is really good. I think Dodrio is better than Talonflame. Also, Talonflame is really good. And people play Talonflame. It might be the worst played Pokemon in this game right now. I don't know if I've seen worse players than Talonflame players. They spend all game backcapping and not participating, and the thing about Talon is you can do both. Same with Dodrio. So where I think Talon actually sits is either B+ or A. I think without Dodrio in the game, Talon is A or A+. But considering Dodrio is in the game, it fills a similar role, and I think it's better. I'm gonna put Talon B+, and I'm gonna put Dodrio A+. I think Dodrio is just showing itself over and over again as a excellent choice inside this game. The scoring mechanic sets up some really cool plays where you can score a little bit in a goal, but then let your ally break it with a nice big overcap. You can move around the map like crazy. It does great damage with its boosted attack. I think Dodrio is doing great right now. Talonflame also good, but it just getting completely overshadowed and getting played in such a bizarre way. I mean, people are just ruining this Pokemon. It's sad to see. Are there any other speedsters? Is that every speedster in the game? I feel like I'm missing one. Of course I'm missing one. Zeraora. Sarah's fine. Sarah's fine. It's B. It's B. When you're popping off with Zera, it feels pretty good. And there are some people who are amazing with this Pokemon, but they're amazing Garchomp players. That doesn't mean I think the Pokemon's great, and I don't. I think its leveling is still a mess. This might even be too kind to Zera. It might actually be closer to a C-tier Pokemon. Competitively, you might find some better use for it, but anything else, I don't know. There are just so many other Pokemon I would want to run, which is the idea of ranking them in a tier. I would want to run every single speedster over Zeraora, and many different Pokemon in the central area over Zeraora, many different Pokemon in path, and for that reason, I'm going to leave it in the B tier. I'm not in love with Zeraora right now, unfortunately. Let's do defenders or attackers. Let's do attackers. While we're in the B+ area, I'm going to throw Cinderace and Greninja both in this area. I think they're both solid. They're different, but the same in a weird way. They're both kind of your ranged 80 carries. I think they're both all right on this map, but I actually think all-rounders and speedsters just feel a lot better than these two attackers right now. So I think they're good. You can make great plays with them. The fight around Rayquaza is actually a little bit better for Cinderace right now, so that's pretty solid, but I think both of them are B+ choices. They're fine. And the other problem is you need to play them in the center area, and that's just such a crowded, you know, the jungle is just such a crowded place. There's so many Pokemon who want that experience, and these two really don't rise to the occasion for me. Cram is another head scratcher. I gotta say, I think it's also probably B+. It's really good. You don't see it much anymore. You play it in Path, which is nice. I feel like, strangely enough, they keep tapering it back slightly to bring it in line, and that probably sets it into a place like B+. That's probably where you see Cram. It's good. You can do some good stuff with Cram. I think it's Unite's in a pretty cool place in the game right now, but there's just so many places to hide, so many ways to get away from this Pokemon, and it doesn't feel like it has the same value that it did when it was kind of a little overtuned with cooldown on the last map. Let's see. Decidueye. Decidueye, I don't know. I'm putting it B+ here too. I don't hate it. I think it's good at times, and I also think it's fine at times. Its Spirit Shackle doesn't have the same value because sniping objectives isn't as easy, and it isn't as valuable as it used to be anymore. Getting Dreadnought and Zapdos felt more important than getting Regieleki and Rayquaza, even though we're talking about, you know, shades of differences here. I do think that's where it's at. Razor Leaf, on the other hand, I don't like that move. I don't like that play style. I don't think it's very good for this Pokemon. It's just too squishy, I think, to really benefit from it. But it's not bad. It's pretty good. B+. Pretty good. Delphox, I think, is A+. It's almost S. It has to be played in the center area, really, but it's one of the best center area Pokemon in the game by far. It's really mean late. Its resets are incredible. You're spamming moves constantly. Delphox is really, really great. Its Power Spike at level 11. Once Mystical Fire has the ability to basically reset Mystical Fire and Flame Charge over and over, this Pokemon just becomes an absolute monster to deal with. Duraludon is way better than people think. Way better. It honestly might be A+. It's great in lane. It's great in the center area. It can secure objectives. It can get KOs. It actually has decent mobility with Dragon Tail. Duraludon is, I swear, I don't know why people sleep on this Pokemon. I think it's because it was released broken and they thought it got tuned down to the point where it's not, but it's still great. Still so great. Next attacker, let's see, Glaceon. Glaceon, I'm actually going to knock off of its S pedestal and put it up in A+. Icicle Spear, maybe B+, honestly. Icy Wind, I still think is amazing. Even though they tuned it back a little bit, it's not only that they tuned it back a little bit, it's also you just don't see as much of it anymore, and the things you're playing it into, I think, outplay it a little, and we're going to talk about some of those here in a moment. I think it's good, but maybe it was always the lowest broken of the three broken Pokemon, the three big broken ones, but it's still really solid. I think A+ is a fair place to put it. It just doesn't feel S tier broken for me right now. Espeon, I think, is B+. I think Espeon's a lot better than it used to be. Solid in Path. It has a weird bug right now, and I don't know how that works with stored power, but I've heard it has issues with stored power. My Psyshock was being aimed weird, but outside of this bug, I think it's really solid. The stuns, the damage, it's actually in a really cool place right now. I think B+ is a nice place for this Pokemon. Gardevoir. This is going to be controversial, but Gardevoir is C tier, covering D. This is one of the worst Pokemon on this map. I don't know what to tell. It just feels like it never gets anything done. I wish it did, but it's either dealing damage to Pokemon that are way too tanky or just getting dove on. I don't like this Pokemon on this map. I really don't. It's not that good, I don't think, unfortunately. Yeah, C tier for me. I'm sorry, Gardevoir. You're rough on this map. You got to play it in Path and just, no. Mew. S. Mew's insane. Mew's insane. This Pokemon's so dumb. I talk about it every time I see it. I'm like, so dumb. This Pokemon is so dumb. Everything it does is broken. It has a Solar Beam at level 1. It has a better Surf than Blast. Everything it does is dumb. Unite move makes it invincible. Go away, Mew. Let's see. Next Pokemon. Ninetales. Yeah. B. I think is even being maybe too fair. I'd put Pika here too. They're fine. They're not great. They're not great. They're fine and not great. Yeah, they're fine. I don't know. They're just... I'm trying to put my finger on what it is about them that's just so not good on this map. The burst damage is crazy right now. And when you have two squishy Pokemon with very little mobility, that's always going to be a problem. I think B is a fair place for it. B is a tier of Pokemon that are playable, but just kind of underwhelming. And I think that's fair for both Ninetales and Pikachu right now. Let's take a look here. Who's our next attacker? Sylveon. I think Sylveon's probably B+, maybe even A. But B+, I think, is a fair place to put this Pokemon. Sylveon's good. Good early. Gets strong at level 4. I think Mystical Fire, on the other hand, so I'm talking about Hyper Voice. I think Mystical Fire is actually one of the most underwhelming builds in the game right now. Every time I see it, it just feels like a useless Pokemon on the team. It's good for like 2 levels. It's good for between level 4 and 7, maybe. And then all of a sudden, this Pokemon's useless. But Hyper Voice, I still think, is pretty good. It feels like it's in a weird spot because the meta is so bursty. It has huge bursts of damage right now, and this is sort of consistent damage, but it's not bad. I think it's pretty good. I think B+ is a nice place for it. Next attacker is Venusaur. Boy, I don't know. Venusaur is rough right now, you guys. I think Venusaur is not in a good spot in this meta at all. At all. It's just... Honestly, it's the Solar Beam build is better, I think, but I don't think either of them are great. One problem with attackers is you kind of compare almost everything to Mew in some ways, which is unfortunate, but it's the case. What we're doing is comparing. This whole list is about comparison. There wouldn't be tiers if you're not technically comparing them to other things that are in the game. And Venusaur, I just feel like, man, it's rough. It's just so rough. It's so squishy. It's bad with Petal Dance Giga Drain in some ways just because it feels like it gets KO'd way too fast. And then if it's back shooting Solar Beams, you'd rather have a Mew 8 million days of the week. Gosh, I'm just really not impressed with Venusaur right now. Let's talk about our defenders. Defenders, Blastoise, B for Blastoise. Blastoise is pretty meh, it feels like right now. It's all right. You know, B tier is like, it's all right, but please pick something else. That's what I feel like. They're all right, but pick something else. It always has the opportunity to pop off. Good Unite move. Both movesets are pretty solid right now, but a solid B for me is where I put it. Crustle has the Talonflame problem. The thing with Crustle is people who play Crustle are horrible, and I don't know why this is. No offense to you if you're a Crustle man and you crush it. I appreciate you. But for the most part, everyone plays Crustle, and they just back cap. They don't participate in fights. They're never at important moments. Your ally Crustle is probably D tier, but I think Crustle more reasonably is B tier. It can actually carry if you do a good job carrying with it, but man, Crustle allies are just so rough. Next defender, Greedent. Greedent's either A+ or S. I'm going to put it A+ right now. I don't feel like it feels particularly broken, but it's always incredible. Insane defense, insane recovery. It's hard to stop it. It's hard to stop it from scoring. It's hard to stop it from chasing down your carries. Everything Greedent does is great. It's actually not getting that much play lately, which I think is interesting, but I rarely see Greedent's, but Greedent's great. Still a great Pokemon, but I'm going to put it A+ right now. All right, this might be one of my most controversial placements of this whole thing. Mamoswine's A right now. Mamoswine's good. Really good. I don't know why it's so good. It's really good. I love Mamo right now. You do so much damage with it. You know what? I'm getting wild here. I'm honestly putting it A+. I think it's great. I'm always so surprised. I've been double stacking it a lot lately. Also playing it sometimes with weakness policy. I think this Pokemon is super solid. One of the best defender picks in the game. I love Mamo right now. I think Mamo's so good. Slowbro's a weird one. Slowbro is B+, but it feels like it's worse. Just because Slowbro used to be so good. But Slowbro is a B+. It's good. It's good. Used to be better, but it's good. It's good. It feels like it used to be better, but it's good. You can't deny that it's good. It feels a little underwhelming. Snorlax, really solid. I think Snorlax is A or A+. Solo, Mamo beats out Snorlax for sure. Coordinated, Snorlax probably beats out Mamo. So these two flip-flop like this for coordinated, and for solo, it's more like this. I talk about my tier list more generally rather than just what's happening in competitive play because, you know, I think it's important to talk about what's going on in competitive play, but 99% of us aren't playing in competitive 5 stacks for tournaments and things like that. I'm going to leave it like this for now. A great Pokemon, a great defender. Our next defender, Trevenant. I think Trevenant's also A. Really good. Really good. Does tons of damage. Strong in path. Or lane, as everyone knows it, except Pokemon Unite. And it can secure last hits, it can put out a lot of damage, it can defend the team. Really solid defender right now. Those are all of our defenders. Let's move into our supporters, and while we move into our supporters, let's talk about our tankiest supporters first, because we are kind of talking about a similar role, right? Let's talk about Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff I actually think is rising, and it's weird to put Slowbro and Wiggly in the same place and talk about Slowbro in sort of a negative light and talk about Wiggly in a positive light. But I think Wiggly lost a lot of viability a while back, mainly due to Blissey and so many things being unstoppable rather than, you know, getting hindrance resistance. But Wiggly is slowly climbing back into the game, and I'm freaking here for it. Let's go Wiggly. B+, I think, is a solid place to put this Pokemon. Mime. So yeah. It's Mr. Mime, and it's insane. It's S. I don't know what else to say. If you're watching this tier list, you know what? I was gonna say if you're watching this for the first time, you know, and you don't know why Mime is S, just play the game for a little bit. But I'll talk about it briefly. Insane stats. It's so tanky. Power Swap's gross. Confusion does too much damage. Everything does too much damage. Its Unite move is insane. It's good at level 0 all the way to level 15. It's just crazy. Mime's crazy. Blissey. Blissey's a weird one, and this is the first time I'm gonna lower this below the A tier. And I'm gonna allow myself to be wrong here, but I just don't see that much Blissey in the game right now. When I see it, I think it's fine. Sorry, microphone. When I see it, I think it's fine, but it's losing out its role to other tanks and the next Pokemon that just got released. So I think Blissey is good, but it just feels like they've nerfed it a decent amount, and there are other options. And when there are other options and they all feel pretty good, I think that makes it B+ or A. And I'm going to put it B+ for now. I still think full egg is the way to go, soft boiled and egg bomb. But and if you're playing solo, it's actually a better defender than CLEFABLE, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But if you're not playing it solo at all, I think CLEFABLE kind of beats it out. And when someone's taking your job, you know, that's something that you have to consider where your placement is on a tier list. Eldegoss. No. No. I don't like this Pokemon in this meta at all. No. No. Go home, Eldegoss. Eldegoss, no! All right, our next Pokemon, Hoopa. Hoopa, I'm so sorry, buddy, but I think Hoopa is rough on this map. I like Hoopa, and I know Hoopa players who are crazy good. Here's the funny thing. I know a Hoopa player who's insane. I know a Gardevoir player who's insane. I know Garchomp players who are insane, and I don't mean to disrespect them, but I just think these Pokemon are not good on this map. Hoopa right now is so underwhelming for me. So underwhelming. Just one of the worst Pokemon on this map. Yeah. Sorry, Hoopa. Sorry. I'm so sorry. CLEFABLE. I actually think so. CLEFABLE's either B+ or A. You thought I was going to put it higher. I'm not. It's either B+ or A. Here's the thing. Maybe it's A+. Hold on. It's because of gravity. Gravity might put it here. So if you're playing solo, this Pokemon is not great solo. Other than solo, other than playing this video game alone, this is, when you look at a supporter with healing and supporting the team, this is solid. I actually am going to put it A+. This is maybe a little too high, but man, the heals are nuts. You just get easy 100 100k is simple. 140k is not even that hard. You're just walking around your team. You're putting down an area of gravity where your enemies can't dash. Some Pokemon can't use basic attacks. It's like, yeah. I think as a supporter, when you're thinking of supporters, it's kind of an A+ choice. Now it's time. My favorite part of the tier list, when I put a Pokemon in the God tier, and I'm freaking Norse around here. It's Mew and Mime. It's Mew and Mime. I'm Norse this week. I don't even care. These two Pokemon are silly. They're silly billies, and I'm... I can't deal with how silly they are and how much of a billy they are. These Pokemon are too good, and to not have them on your team is a massive disadvantage, and that's when a Pokemon is S tier, God tier choice for me. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this tier list. Now we do the fun part where we kind of do this a little bit, and we mess with things, and we see if anybody skips to the end. And some people think this part's, you know, a little mean, but I actually think it's pretty fun just to see what people say. And it just shows you who's kind of watching a video and who's not. So let's go ahead and do that. So there you go. Mew obviously nuts, but now Scizor and Scyther are some of the best Pokemon in the game without question. And of course, you know, we have notable Pokemon who are not doing too well right now in the game. Blissey, Eldegoss, Gardevoir is, you know, terrible, absolutely terrible. Buzzwole doing pretty good. Absol almost making it up into that God tier, along with Cramorant, of course, and Espeon. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this tier list. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I love you very much. More cool stuff coming soon. Mwah!